The energy's been intense. It's been turbulent. There's a lot that has been shifting. I'm wondering how you're doing with this energy. We're up for a month of intensity in December. We're going to close out the year with a lot that's moving, shifting, and changing this month. But it'll be a lot to navigate through, but I want to give you the tools so that you can really reap the benefits of all the shifts that are happening. It's a deep time of transformation and release, and things are coming to the surface in order for us to move through them, reframe them, let them go so that we can move on. Our fears will be challenged, and the intention of things coming up to clear is for not only for us to move on personally, but collectively as well. And this is so important at this really important time. Hi, I'm Prema Gurreri, Vedic astrologer, consciousness guide, and business oracle, and welcome to Chart Your Path. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, and go ahead and give the video a thumbs up if this is resonating for you. If you haven't already taken the Sacred Wealth Code Archetype quiz, then go ahead and check the link down below. It'll also be in the comments. If you're looking for a reading from me or want to know how to work with me, those links are down below, but I'll share more of that information at the end of the video. We are in complicated times, and my intention is to help you see your pathway through this clearly. So I want to invite you to really open up, first of all, to the grace of Jupiter being in Aquarius in Vedic astrology. Now, Jupiter's been going back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius, and now for the last time has left Capricorn, will not return to Capricorn for another 12 years, coming out of debilitation, moving into more light. Where there's light, there's choice. Jupiter, which is the great teacher in the Sacred Wealth Code Archetype system, the sage, and also the great visionary, and is all about expansion. What Jupiter wants for itself, it wants for everyone. Aquarius, power to the people. It's a place of relationships and groups and organizations and coming together on things instead of being polarized apart on things. But it's very interesting because Jupiter is going to move very, very fast through Aquarius. It'll be here until April 13th, I believe. And so it's a short period of time, but it literally is speeding up. So the things it represents and that expansion, that grace, that light is also speeding up. So the reason I just want to bring this in, and I've talked about this before, and you can go back to one of my last videos if you like to hear a little bit more about this Jupiter transit, but it is really where it's causing us to has the potential to bring us together on ideas instead of separate on ideas. This is about humanity. When you think of Aquarius, think of humanity. And we have this brings Jupiter and the grace of Jupiter into putting what's best for humanity first. Now, that's the potential, but it depends on each and every one of our choices. We also have the opportunity to have more power come to the people as opposed to individual leaders, and a time for us to really come together. So it's time to reach out and, what are the communities that you belong to? Who do you resonate with? Stop looking at what you don't resonate with, and gives us the ability to come together because we're much more powerful together. We were never meant to make a big paradigm shift like this alone, and what you have and the gifts that you're giving, and if you've got your business, your movement, your mission in the world makes a huge difference. There'll be so much more light, and you're going to feel like, okay, now I can start to move forward with things, especially as we come into 2022. Venus has been, which is our great connector. It's also the artist and the muse. And Venus has moved into Sagittarius. And it'll be in Sagittarius until the 29th. Now, it's also going to be retrograding. And Venus is our planet of connection. And in Sagittarius, that fiery, inspiring, spiritual place, it is firing up our relationships and our inspiration around connection and creativity from the inspiration, in spirit sense. Venus has been compromised over the last few months, and so this is sort of a breath of fresh air for a moment around relationships and around really digging into your creativity. So I encourage you to really open up to your creativity, feeling that inspiration around it. We're all artists in our own right. We all have a different medium to play with, and and to bring in some more of that joy in that place where we can be inspired together in relationship. Now we have a solar eclipse that is on December 3rd. Well, December 3rd and 4th. It's mostly on the 4th, close to midnight in Pacific time, and it's happening in Scorpio. I'm going to create a separate update, a separate video about this. This is the last eclipse that's happening in the Scorpio Taurus axis, and then this whole eclipse pattern will move out in March, and then we'll have eclipses moving to Aries and Libra, a whole different energy of growth and transformation. That's what eclipse patterns are about. That's what the nodes of the moon, Rahu and Ketu, do. They agitate certain areas of life, and they ask us to grow in our liberation and also our ability to grow and create new things. Again, I'm going to create a separate update for this so that we can really dive into that energy. Look for that in the next day or so. As we move into the month a little further here, just after the eclipse, we're going to have Mars move into Scorpio. It's in Libra now, moving into Scorpio on a little later in the day on the 4th. Now, Mars is our great engineer. It is our great strategist and the honorable warrior. Mars needs to take a stand. Mars owns Scorpio, and this is good for Scorpio in general, except for the fact that Ketu's there, the mystic's there, the south node of the moon. And the mystic, and that's where the solar eclipse is happening between the sun and the mystic in Ketu. That being there is going to bring a little different energy with Mars. There's going to be a little bit more of that volatility, but really the underlying intention here is having that wise, honorable warrior, that wise strategist that can really cut through the mental drama and drop deeper into devotion. But we can see drama come up with this energy, so we need to watch that, and especially with the eclipses in general. With Mars, Mars is at its best. It's that part of you that wants to be productive. You're inspired. You want to take that next steps in your project, that next step in your business, and stand in for what you are for in the world, but also can, again, push back on what you're against. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't fight the good fight, but if we fight the good fight from a place of what we're for instead of what we're against, we can be more coming from a place of the heart, a place of devotion. And I encourage you to do that, because Mars will definitely bring up some volatility. We're going to see some volatility in the world. What's new? We've been seeing a lot of that. It's a bit of a trigger as it comes in alignment with Ketu, with the south node of the moon on December 15th. It's going to happen in the nakshatra of Anuradha, though, and that's a little bit milder than where the eclipse is happening in Jyeshta. This is a place that really represents wisdom, but also a friendship and camaraderie, and that's a good thing. Again, that allows us to come together. And in fact, the planet Mars and its archetypes works better in camaraderie. So this is a trigger point on the 15th. I'm skipping around just a little bit. I'll get back to the sequential order of the month. But what I want you to know about this is that this is a place that a time where you're going to want to keep your cool, watch out for arguments and fights. It's triggering you to let go and transform something, especially around your fears, your whatever's coming up around, your drama, but your fears, really asking you to let go of that and get down to what's the deeper devotion instead of the drama and fear around whatever you're maybe caught up in some of the more challenging emotions. So you want to exercise and sweat when it comes to Mars. You want to take that edge off. You want to be very spiritually disciplined. And remember, okay, so spiritual discipline. What is your practice? What keeps you aligned? What keeps you aligned with the source of your being, with your heart, with your gifts, on track, and keeps you, out of the weeds on the side of the road? That's meditation, yoga, exercise, being in nature, breath work. Do that. Commit to that. That really puts your Mars energy to really good work. Remember that awareness precedes change, and we have to become aware of what it is that's up for us in order to make that shift or make that change. I get it. This is an uneasy period of time, and you could be questioning a lot of things, and especially again as we're in this eclipse time, you may be questioning, even what are you, what you're doing in the world right now, your purpose, your mission, your business. Am I going in the right direction? Do I need to change directions? Do I need to throw it all out and start something new? Do I need to, maybe it feels like you're slogging along with the same thing, but you're not really moving where you want to go, and you're looking outside of yourself, and you're thinking, well, they're doing it this way, and she's doing it that way, and maybe I should try this. This is a time to sink in and find what that is within you and what's that core purpose, and be able to move from that deep rudder instead of all this complication that's happening on the surface. So, for you, what is it? What is that deep purpose for you? Feel free to leave me a comment. If this is resonating for you, hit that like button. Love to hear what your deep purpose is. Mercury is going to be traveling very close to the eclipses. Now, Mercury is our great messenger, our communicator. It's also the merchant in the Sacred Wealth Code Archetype system. And so this energy is, it'll be in Scorpio until the 9th, and then it'll move into Sagittarius, although it'll be close to the sun, and we'll have to watch out for still some of the communication hookups that we can have. But what's going to happen here with Mercury, especially in the first 10 days of the month, is, well, actually, I should say it's longer than that. It's really through almost the middle of the month, because of it's going to pass through the Gandanta point. Your analytical thinking is not going to be as clear as you would like it to be. So you're going to have to watch out for getting caught up in emotions. You're going to have to watch your communication. How do you watch your communication? You get clear about what you want to communicate first, and then you do that as simply and clearly as you can. The problem is that we can tend to be a little bit reactive, and it's not so good a time for that intellectual, evaluating kind of thinking that Mercury is so good at. Instead, you're going to have to depend more on your intuition. That's more depending on the messenger within, and going with the intuitive hit. If you can avoid in the first half of the month making really important decisions, I would really encourage you to do that. But we have to make decisions. So how do you do that? You're going to have to trust your gut on more so than what you're weighing in your mind as far as Mercury goes in the first half of the month. So be aware of that. And so that's just a good challenge for you to deepen your ability to trust your intuition, to trust your gut. And how do you do that? You actually feel your intuition depending on how you're wired up. You feel it in your solar plexus. You may feel it down lower in your sacrum, in your heart. But it's a knowing as opposed to a decision that you're making. So keep things as simple as you can, and give yourself the time and breadth you need with any important decisions you have to make, to sit with them and trust that intuitive response. Instead of talking to a lot of people about it. It's not going to be easy to figure out that way. On December 8th, Mars and Jupiter have a particular aspect that's going to be really good for taking action. So just mark December 8th down, and that you're going to do something that feels productive, and that's something that feels positive. You're taking a positive action to move forward in your life. Just use that energy, capture it and use it. When we have, the wind in our sails, we want to run with it. And when it's really stormy, like during the eclipses, we want to lay low and not make really big choices and keep things very, very simple. So as I just talked about with Mercury, I just want to circle back on one thing. Between the 8th and the 12th, when it's in Gandanta, this is the place in between water and fire. It's where we're untying our karmic knots. And in fact, it's not Mars is going to move through this placement. The sun is going to move through the Gandanta placement. Venus has already been through this. We go through this several times a year. And so it's not a good time to sign contracts either. I didn't mention that. So watch your communication, and especially on those days between the 8th and the 12th. This is, again, a good time for really tuning in with that inner messenger you have, more so than making a business decision, more so than making an important communication that you need to make. December 11th, Venus is going to be conjunct Pluto at 1 degree of Capricorn. And you're going to really need to watch your need to control relationships. Pluto is this amazing cathartic transformer energy, and it tends to do things, quite abruptly, cause things quite abruptly. You want to focus on your relationships with yourself and with source more than you're focusing on relationships with others on that day. We're going to have, just like last year during this time, or I want to say at the beginning, mostly at the beginning of 2021, between now and the beginning, first couple of months of 2022, we're going to have most of the planets move through aligning with Pluto. And it's like it aligns up and then it's boom, it's this cathartic, trigger point. Think of it as a trigger. And with Pluto, it's transformer, it's power, but it's also control. That's the shadow side. So watch your control around relationships. Who can you control? You can control you. Remember, awareness. If you have awareness, you have one of the greatest gifts that you have. You can see things, you can be aware of the energy, you can make better choices. So whether this is your intimate relationships, whether this is client relationships, whether this is more your community and friends type relationships, it's not that you have to pull back from them, but your need to control them is, again, anything we feel out of control with, insecure, have fears around, we will want to control. Pluto can just bring that up in us. So if it's anything like that is happening for you, again, just mark your calendar, focus on relationship with self, more self-love, more self-care time, and more connection with the source of your being. The sun is going to be moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius on December 15th. Now, let me talk about this a little bit more, that the sun happens to be in Scorpio now. And normally when the sun moves from debilitation in Libra into Scorpio, it gets empowered. That is our, do I have a leader here? That I have a leader behind us. That's the great leader, king, the celebrity in the Sacred Wealth Code Archetype system. Now, because K2, the mystic, is in Scorpio, and because the eclipse is happening there, and because the sun is getting eclipsed, this is not the best time for the sun, that your leader is going to feel not as empowered as maybe we'd like it to. But we're going to see that reflected back collectively. There is going to be complications with leadership. And there needs to be a shift of power as far as leadership goes. There needs to be a changing of the guard. And so just be aware and don't get caught up with what's happening outside, except for standing in for what you're for. And for yourself, that leader within, that part of you we need to be a little bit more humble during this time. The sun will be moving through this Gandanta appointment. Again, this is where we untie these karmic knots. And this is a good thing, that when we have a planet in Gandanta, though, it can feel a little out to lunch. It can feel like we can't quite sort of touch the things we normally could, or stand in for, or touch that part of ourselves. But this is the sun representing your soul, your ego, your independence, your self-expression. It's a short time, and there's some gift that wants to come through, some release, some karmic unraveling that you have been working with on a deep level of your soul during this particular transit here. That's between the 13th and the 18th of December. So reach inside for that gift. Spend some extra time in meditation and really check in with your soul as opposed to what your ego is standing for. The ego is always going to look at what we need to release as loss. The soul is going to look at it as transformation. You're going to come out of this time as we move into the 19th and beyond in December with your soul, the sun, your self-expression, your independence, your leadership having shifted. And remember, as we each shift even just the smallest part of that leadership within, we shift the leadership as a collective. So let's look inside and shift ourselves, and then move that into the mission that we're taking in the world, move that into our projects, move that into our business, our position in the world, and let that have a ripple effect. We'll have a full moon on December 18th in Gemini. I will do an update for this. This full moon is going to really illuminate our curiosity, our ideas. It illuminates things in the media too, so we'll see more truth come to the surface. We also have the solstice on the 21st. I'll probably combine those updates and do an update for both of them. The 21st in the Northern Hemisphere is the darkest day, and I always describe this as like going through the eye of the needle. You cannot take too much baggage with you. We're called to be in the dark more and not have the light outside of us. We have to sit with ourselves, and whatever's been churning and coming up, remember, this is about stripping away so that we can come into the new intention for ourselves as we move back into the light and how we're going to animate our light in the world. With the solstice, remember, it's about being the light, not looking for it outside of yourself. You need to bring it. And especially during the holiday season, be that light, bring that light, especially in this pretty, I want to say it's just a very complex time. It's a very complex time as we're coming to the culmination here of these major shifts. On December 25th, the Christmas holiday, Venus is going to be conjunct Pluto. So again, we have this Pluto energy here because Venus is also in retrograde. So we're going to be moving back into Sagittarius, again, taking a closer look at our relationships in many ways, and into our intuition, into our creative nature, and that aligning up with Pluto could feel heavy. So be easy with your relationships around the holiday. Remember that cathartic energy I talked about. You could have a tendency to feel a little betrayed, to not feel like you're getting what you need from others. Come in with your buckets full to the holiday so that you're emotionally full, that you're full of the light, so that you're not looking for that underlying shadow part of you, is not looking for ways that you are not loved. And if an issue does come up, take the time to communicate clearly from your heart. Drop your mind out into your heart. Speak from your heart, not from your head. And truth always brings clarity, always makes us feel a sense of liberation, even sometimes if that truth is hard to say or hard to hear. And December 30th, we've got Mercury is going to conjunct Pluto. So we have all this energy with these trigger points with Pluto. You know, in Vedic astrology, the way we look at the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, is they're not planets of light, so they don't animate the sun, they don't animate the soul. But when we have them very close in the birth chart, or we have them by transit, we're making these conjunctions. It's like a cathartic, it's like a trigger point, and that's why I'm bringing this in, because it's very important. It's transformative, and if you think about any transformation you've ever been through, there's usually been, you know, it isn't just like we walk out on a breezy day and we have a transformation. Sometimes we do have an amazing spiritual experience like that, or a gestalt, but a lot of times it's like we're moving through something, and then it transforms, just like the alchemist, you know, transforming things, you know, heating things up, moving things. Mercury, again, is your intellect, your thinking, your communication, and so on December 30th. Again, there can be a change that comes in. It's going to be a change in structures because it's Capricorn. We'll even collectively, you know, it's going to trigger off. We may not see that change that day, but it's going to trigger off a change in government, a change in business. You know, again, Mercury is the great merchant and rules business. So if you have a business, good not to make important decisions on that day, on December 30th. And as we close out the year on, and it's hard to believe, 2021, closing out, Mars on December 31st will hit the eclipse point of the solar eclipse we just had earlier in the month. And when Mars hits, we always look at where Mars is hitting the eclipse points, even when the eclipse is already passed, because it's like a trigger. Again, it triggers things, and it does it volatilely. Is that a word? It can be volatile at that time. So, and that's going to be the New Year's Eve time. So keep your cool. I would say suggest stay out of crowded places. It's not always you when things get volatile, it's the others around you. Watch out for, your own feelings of resentment or even rage coming up. And don't blame. That energy of blame can really be in with this too. Keep your cool. Uh, Again, with Mars, you sweat, you exercise, you remember what you're standing in for, so that you're fighting the good fight. The honorable warrior wants to be fighting for the spiritual purpose of something, and that's better than pushing against what you're against. So, on the New Year's, um, just take a chill pill. Just be easy with yourself and be very easy with others. I know that I just went through a lot. Take your time, go back and re-listen to this. If you have questions, put them below. I would love to know, for you, what are you feeling that's changing so much? What is it that for you feel challenged with at this time? And also take the time to dig in, like I asked you earlier, about what is your purpose right now, and has that shifted? Love to hear about that deeper purpose for you, because we all do need, your unique purpose, my unique purpose. It all interweaves in this beautiful mosaic on a collective level. And this is the way we shift this paradigm and our own personal paradigm. If we keep shifting our own personal paradigm, that helps to shift the collective paradigm as well. So if this has resonated, give this video a like. If you have not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. I'm bringing you updates almost every week here. And if you would like to know how all of this and so much more is hitting your chart, then book a reading with me. I love to dive deep on my one-on-one readings. If you want to know the transits for the year, looking at the year ahead, what you're dealing with, and my readings tend to be not just informational, but very transformational as well. Then book a soul success map reading. If you really want to focus on the gifts and the wealth aspect of things, book a Sacred Wealth Code reading. The links are down below in the description. And if you are a conscious woman visionary, you have a business, you want to have a business, move your mission out into your work in the world, or shift the work that you're doing now, I encourage you to book a call and let's talk about the solutionary blueprint and see if it's a fit for you. This is for you deeply conscious entrepreneurs, visionaries that really want to do the deep work in order to fully align with your gifts, understand and work with the astrology, the energy, and align your frequency and your energetics to your soul blueprint, and have all the tools you need on a practical business level, yet on a deep energetics level, to really uniquely step into the best version of yourself and move your mission out into the world. We need you more than ever. But the link is below if you want to have a talk with me and my team about the solutionary blueprint. All right, appreciate your shares, your likes. So much love to you.